Why does it look like a goddamn Yeti? Anybody? 'Cause it's real tall. I'm not down with it.
After dark, the Appalachian wilderness can feel like a completely different place. A strange whistle echoed from the trees, and glowing eyes appeared outside another home. But what was actually out there? A man living in the Appalachian Mountains had been hearing strange animal-like noises coming from the forest near his home for some time. Wanting to discover what was causing them, he grabbed his camera and walked into the woods. As he went deeper through the trees, the noises seemed to draw closer. Then his camera captured something in the darkness, a shape partly concealed, barely visible, and seemingly staring back at him. The footage was too unclear to prove what it was, so people online quickly developed different theories. Some believed it was simply an animal in the darkness, while others thought the shape looked too unusual to dismiss. In low light, the brain can turn unclear shapes into something far more frightening. But if you saw something watching you from deep in the woods at night, would you stay calm? What do you think he captured? A father was taking a morning walk with his daughter through the Appalachian Mountains when they discovered something unusual. Deep in the forest away from the trail, they spotted a large wooden structure made from branches and logs, but it did not resemble an ordinary shelter. The branches had been stacked and arranged in a strange, deliberate pattern, almost as though someone had constructed it for a specific purpose. After searching for similar structures online, they found theories claiming that some formations like this have been associated with ritual activity or strange gatherings in remote wooded areas. Of course, there is no proof of that. Others believe it could have been something random built by hikers or campers. Maybe it was simply a random structure, or perhaps it served a purpose only its builder understood. Without knowing who built them, your mind naturally starts wondering why they are there. What do you think it was used for? What would you do if you saw someone walking toward you from the darkness of a tunnel? This group barely had time to react before the footage suddenly ended. The friends had set up camp inside the tunnel,
That's not Christian. That ain't Christian.
built a small fire, and sat around talking. As they relaxed, something began emerging from the darkness at the opposite end. A figure slowly walked toward them, covered in some kind of white substance that made it difficult to identify. The moment became even stranger when the video abruptly ended before anything else could be seen. The scene was probably staged, perhaps as a prank by one of the friends. But if it was real, being trapped inside that tunnel would have been terrifying. What do you think was walking toward them? He had been looking through old family photos and videos from a trip with his father and siblings. At first, nothing seemed unusual. It looked like a simple family outing from many years ago. But when he watched the footage again decades later, he noticed something in the background that he had never seen before. A figure appeared to be standing there. When he asked his family about it, they all gave him the same answer. Nobody else had been with them that day. There were no strangers nearby, no friends, and no people passing through. Still, the figure was clearly visible in the footage. Unsettled and searching for answers, the man posted the images online. But not long after he shared them, his account was deleted without explanation. Maybe the figure had an ordinary explanation, or perhaps the missing follow-up made the story seem even stranger. What do you think he found in that old footage? A group of friends were driving at night when they noticed lights far ahead along a quiet road. As they drew closer, they saw a figure standing completely still near the roadside. Each one was covered from head to toe in white robes, and one appeared to be holding a burning torch. The encounter lasted only a brief moment, but it left the group deeply unsettled. Because the area was so isolated, it didn't seem like an ordinary prank. They drove away convinced they had witnessed something they were never meant to see. A Reddit user named Damian Courtney shared a photo that their aunt had taken during a cemetery walk in Virginia about 20 years earlier. According to the story, she had gone with a small group to visit an old family cemetery deep in the Appalachian Mountains. The group hiked there hoping to find old headstones and photograph them for relatives, But when they arrived, the area was so overgrown that most of the graves were nearly impossible to locate. They took several photos, and at the time, nobody noticed anything unusual. Only later, after the pictures were developed, did they notice something strange. In one image near a tombstone, a figure appeared to be standing in the frame. The uploader said there were no other people in that part of the cemetery besides their group, and nobody remembered seeing anyone standing among the vegetation when the photos were taken. What made the story even stranger was that the aunt later claimed she used a Ouija board to ask about the figure. According to her, the board provided the name Teresa Collier and described the figure as an 8-year-old girl. Maybe the photo has a simple explanation, or perhaps the name made the image harder to forget. What do you think appeared in that cemetery photo? TikToker Mosh Mob posted a clip filmed in their backyard in the Appalachian Mountains at roughly 3 a.m. In the footage, a faint whistle can be heard coming from somewhere beyond the trees. Throughout the Appalachian region, hikers and residents have frequently described hearing strange whistling noises during the night. These noises are often connected to stories about something lurking in the dark woods, deliberately imitating human whistles. Because of this, some locals caution visitors against whistling back, telling them to behave as though they never heard anything at all. Of course, there is no evidence that anything unusual caused the sound, but with so many similar accounts coming from the Appalachian Mountains, it does make you wonder, could all of them really be nothing more than coincidence? Sometimes old houses do more than preserve history, they preserve warnings. This couple did not uncover theirs until they started opening up the oldest section of their cabin. Reddit user Sava3434 said she and her husband purchased an old Appalachian home to renovate and eventually live in. They stayed there for several months around 5 years ago, but eventually left after encountering strange events they could not explain. Years later, they came back to remodel the property. The house contained an original 1800s log cabin section, along with a newer addition from the 1990s. While pulling siding away from the older section, they discovered words carved into one of the original logs. It said, "Demon be gone." Old carvings can reflect personal beliefs, warnings, or messages left by previous owners, but in a home already associated with unexplained events, that message is difficult to dismiss. Maybe it was simply an old expression, or perhaps someone put it there for a reason. What would you have done? A group of hikers exploring Vermont's Green Mountain National Forest came across something disturbing near Mount Tabor. While making their way through a muddy area in late April, they noticed what looked like an old pair of hiking boots, partially buried in the ground. At first, there seemed to be nothing particularly unusual about it, but after taking a closer look, they realized human foot bones were still inside the boots. Police were immediately contacted and called to the location. The initial search revealed little else, but several days later, investigators returned with a larger team including search dogs and personnel from the U.S. Forest Service. That second search brought them to additional human remains nearby, along with outdoor equipment and personal belongings concealed beneath the leaves and soil. Authorities confirmed the remains belonged to a human, but they have not identified the person or revealed how long the remains had been there. Perhaps it was a tragic hiking accident, someone who became lost, or something that still has not been explained in those mountains. What do you think happened? Frances Dell Apperson departed Charlotte, North Carolina in May 2022 to meet her family for a hike along Hawksbill Mountain Trail in the Linville Gorge Wilderness, but she never arrived. When her family was unable to contact her by phone, they initially assumed she might have changed her plans or been delayed. But as the hours turned into days, their concern continued to grow. Days later, authorities discovered her locked silver Hyundai in a parking lot near Linville Falls, not at Hawksbill Mountain where she was expected to be. Inside the vehicle, there were no obvious clues indicating where she had gone afterward. The Linville Gorge area is known for steep cliffs, dense woods, difficult terrain, and weather that can shift rapidly. Searchers were also concerned because Frances was deaf, meaning she might not have heard rescuers calling if she had become lost or injured. Extensive search operations followed involving helicopters, drones, search dogs, and teams on the ground. But almost nothing was ever recovered, only a scarf believed to belong to her and a small angel figurine matching one found inside her vehicle. Her family still has no idea why she ended up near Linville Falls instead of Hawksbill Mountain. Years later, Frances Apperson's disappearance remains unsolved. Trail cameras can capture moments people would never get to witness. This one, installed by a coworker, caught a deer standing incredibly close to the lens. Since these cameras are triggered by movement, animals can sometimes wander directly into the ideal position at exactly the right moment. The result is an unusual, one-of-a-kind photograph. Maybe the deer was simply curious, or perhaps it was nothing more than perfect timing. Have you ever come across a trail camera photo like this? While walking, the hiker noticed something behind the brush and immediately began filming. In the footage, a humanoid-like figure appears, partly concealed by branches, remaining unusually motionless, as though it did not want to be noticed. The uploader thought it could have been a skinwalker, referring to regional folklore involving shape-shifting beings. Others disagreed, suggesting it looked more like someone crouched down, or perhaps a person imitating the familiar internet-style rake sightings. Maybe it was someone hiding, maybe the footage was staged, or maybe the hiker witnessed something they simply could not explain. What do you think was hiding behind those bushes? A Reddit user shared an account from a hiking trip in the Shenandoah Mountains near the Appalachian Trail. While exploring the area surrounding their campsite, they noticed something off in the distance. They called out to find out if anyone was nearby, but nobody responded. Curious yet cautious, they approached and eventually realized it was a man-made shelter concealed in the woods. In the comments, many people said they would have left immediately. Spending the night near an unfamiliar shelter can feel dangerous because you do not know who constructed it, who could be staying nearby, or whether someone might come back. Fortunately, nothing else happened. Whoever built the shelter never showed up, and the hikers completed their trip without any problems. Still, discovering something like that deep in the mountains would leave most people uneasy. Maybe it was harmless, or maybe it was better not knowing who it belonged to. What would you have done? This encounter shows how quickly food can bring danger onto the trail. While hiking along the Appalachian Trail, a woman stopped to eat when a black bear suddenly approached her food.
No. You're not getting my food. Get out of here. Go. Get.
Holy crap, it's a bear. I'm sitting here eating.
Dude, go. You got plenty of food out here. Go. Get.
He keeps coming over here. I go hang my food up. I guess I'm not eating tonight. Thank you.
Get out of here.
Standing just a few feet from the animal, she had to control her fear and remain calm. Black bears have a powerful sense of smell and can follow food scents. Was the bear simply searching for a meal, or could the encounter have become dangerous? One morning, a woman stepped outside her remote cabin and noticed a motionless figure standing among the trees. From that moment on, the peaceful forest no longer felt safe. She had chosen the secluded cabin because she wanted privacy, silence, and time away from other people. However, the strange discovery made her question every choice that had brought her so deep into the woods.
Wait for it. Why does it look like a goddamn Yeti? Anybody? Because it's real tall. I'm not down with it.
The figure was difficult to make out, but it appeared to be facing the cabin. It didn't move or make a sound. Its complete stillness seemed intentional, as though someone or something had been watching her for an unknown length of time. The cabin had once felt like a private sanctuary. Now it seemed more like a trap. There were no neighbors nearby, and nobody would hear her if she screamed for help. She could not stop wondering what might have happened if the figure had approached the house, tested the doors, or returned while she was asleep. She would have had nowhere to go, and nobody coming to protect her. Distance and shadows can sometimes make trees or objects appear human. Still, the figure seemed focused on the cabin. Was someone really watching her, or had the forest created a terrifying illusion? On May 26, 2018, YouTuber 82018 Sam B was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when she rounded a bend and froze in terror. A large black bear was sitting directly in the middle of the trail and showed no intention of moving away. Sam stayed completely still. Every instinct told her to run, but she knew fleeing from a bear could make the situation far more dangerous. The animal continued staring at her, and she could not tell what it intended to do. All she could do was remain patient and hope the bear would decide she was not a threat.
There's a bear right in front of me. I wish he would walk on. Yeah, like keep walking. Keep walking. Oh my God, he's in front of me. So he's this far away. No, not this way. Go the other way.
Eventually, the bear moved off the trail and disappeared into the forest. Sam was unharmed, but the encounter left her deeply shaken and reminded her how quickly an ordinary hike could become a fight for survival. Running can cause a bear to chase, so her decision to remain calm may have kept the situation from becoming worse. If the animal had behaved more aggressively, the outcome could have been very different. Do you think Sam handled the encounter correctly? On June 22, 2023, YouTuber Metro on the Move was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when something ahead suddenly put him on high alert. A bear cub was standing directly on the trail. Metro immediately began considering what that could mean. A mother bear was probably nearby, and female bears can become extremely dangerous when they believe their cubs are being threatened. He prepared for the possibility that an angry mother might suddenly appear and confront him. Instead, the cub eventually moved away, without the situation turning violent, completely surprising Metro.
Look, dude, there's a bear, dude. Right there. Right there. You see it? You see the bear? Whoa, he's staring at us too, man. I don't know if you guys can see that on the GoPro. He's looking up. He ain't scared. He wants to cross. He does, but he's not big either. No, that means the mama's somewhere around here. Oh, there he goes. Oh,
decent size for a cub, though. I don't know that they're
that's a
that
cub.
big.
Yeah, that's a cub. Holy cow. Hey, bear. Hey, bear. Hey, bear.
Although the encounter ended safely, it could easily have become much worse. Mother bears can charge from considerable distances when they sense danger near their cubs, attacking with intense protective aggression. The surrounding trees may have concealed the mother from view, leaving Metro unaware of how close she might have been. Keeping his distance may have prevented a dangerous reaction. Was he simply lucky, or did his calm behavior help him avoid an attack? In October 2025, YouTuber Adventure Marksman went on a routine elk hunting trip. During the outing, he used an elk call tube and also made calls himself. These sounds could be heard several times throughout the footage. However, instead of getting a normal response from an elk, he began hearing a series of unusual noises coming from somewhere nearby.
Holy shit. I don't know.
Many viewers quickly developed their own theories about what had produced the sounds. Among the reactions, one more reasonable explanation stood out. Ravens can make a surprisingly wide range of calls, including noises that may resemble grunts or cries. Still, some of the deeper sounds were more difficult to identify. Was it simply wildlife gathering nearby? Or was a much larger animal hiding in the area? This encounter shows how dangerous even a brief break in the wilderness can become. One concealed snake was enough to transform a peaceful moment into a serious survival threat. On July 8, 2011, YouTuber Bujarule was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when he stopped to rest at the Mohican Outdoor Center. He found a comfortable rock beside the creek and paused to enjoy the surrounding scenery. Without warning, a venomous snake emerged from the nearby underbrush, instantly turning the quiet break into a dangerous encounter. Bujarule stepped back and tried to give the snake enough room to reach the water. However, instead of moving directly toward the creek, the animal began slithering in his direction. With the snake getting closer each second, his safe options quickly became limited.
Stop. Good. Shit. Good.
Depending on the species, a venomous bite can cause severe pain, serious tissue damage, and potentially deadly complications without prompt medical treatment. Bujirul was alone and far from help while facing an animal capable of striking before he could react. Every movement carried a risk. If the stick had slipped or the snake had responded aggressively, he might have been forced to rush toward civilization before the venom spread further. Snakes often defend themselves when they feel trapped or threatened, so creating distance was important. Was the animal actually moving toward him, or was it simply trying to find a way to escape? This encounter shows how quickly a peaceful hike can turn dangerous. On March 11, 2023, Jabin Hicks and his friend from As the Crow Flies Hiking were exploring the North Carolina backcountry when they heard a black bear huffing and scratching at a nearby tree. The bear was only a few yards away and had already noticed them.
Walking up so quickly on that bear. I thought I saw some ears down here. Yep, right here he is. Holy crap. Get beside me right here. Yeah. Hey, bear! Slowly back away. Yeah. Leave no one off threat. Uh-oh, is he coming? No. Huh? No.
Recognizing the danger, both hikers stayed together and slowly retreated. The claw marks may have been the bear's way of signaling its presence to other animals. Although the behavior did not necessarily mean an attack was coming, one sudden movement could have made the situation far more dangerous. Do you think they handled the encounter correctly? A man was home alone when he recorded something disturbing. After hearing strange noises coming from the kitchen, he went to investigate and noticed what appeared to be someone standing in the darkness. But when he moved closer and searched the area,
No, amigo, de nuevo esto. Pero qué mierda, boludo.
nobody was there. A moment later, while looking outside, he saw the same figure in the reflection now standing directly behind him. He quickly turned around, but once again nothing was there. Reflections in dark rooms can sometimes distort what we see, but the moment still feels unsettling. Since the video was posted without a clear source, it remains a mystery. What do you think he captured? Chris had just returned home in Appalachia when he noticed something outside his window. A pair of glowing eyes was staring directly at him, fixed and unblinking. He quickly snapped a photo, but moments later the eyes vanished. Chris later posted the image on Reddit, asking whether anyone could explain it. Some people believed it was probably an ordinary animal. Animal eyes can reflect light and darkness, but seeing them appear at your window and disappear like that would still feel unsettling. What do you think Chris saw? This is why some people believe you should pay attention to your pet's instincts. A woman named Shelby explained that she had been hearing strange gurgling noises coming from her backyard.
Can somebody tell me why I hear gurgling sounds in my yard? And the other day I thought I was losing my mind.
Afterward, her cat began acting extremely uneasy, whimpering and crying as though something nearby was bothering it. In the recording, the cat sounds clearly distressed. Then from the yard, a deep shifting noise can be heard coming from somewhere beneath the grass. The sound made the situation seem even more concerning. Many viewers feared it could be a Florida sinkhole and believed Shelby's cat was warning her. But after checking, she discovered a clog in the field line of her filtration system. Thankfully, it was not a sinkhole. Would you trust your pet after that? Deep in the forest, an explorer discovered a strange jar tucked between the twisted roots of a massive tree. It did not seem like something that had been accidentally dropped. The way it was concealed made it feel deliberate, almost as though someone wanted it to remain there. In many old stories, jars or sealed containers are used to contain dark forces or dangerous spirits. Of course, there could be an ordinary explanation, but this discovery felt more like a warning than a treasure. He was probably wise not to open it. One morning, a man and his dog woke up inside their tent to a terrifying surprise.
Я что?
The entire tent was surrounded by a dense swarm of mosquitoes. The only way out was to unzip the tent and go straight through them, but as soon as it opened, the insects would likely rush inside. Mosquitoes are attracted to body heat, scent, and breath, which may explain why so many gathered around the tent. He probably got away safely, but how remains unknown. What would you do in that situation? A man was FaceTiming his friend Julie while sitting alone in his room when something suddenly began knocking on his bedroom door.
Money, Julie, if you don't like to work. Julie, my door just opened. What? No, stop. What the It's not even that late. Kevin's not home from work yet. What? Oh. What the fucking... Oh. No. Oh!
He opened it, but nobody was there. Moments later, several doors throughout the house started opening and closing on their own. Knowing he was home alone, he tried to get out.
Oh my god. Julie, you're f***ing lying. You're f***ing lying. Oh! No. 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 No.
As he moved through the house, something suddenly threw a chair into his path. He looked around, but still could not see anyone, so he rushed back to his room for safety. Doors can move because of airflow or loose hinges, but the chair makes this much harder to explain. Since the video came from an anonymous email, the clip remains a mystery. In a Virginia field, enormous statues of United States presidents sit, abandoned on private property. The 20-foot faces were once part of a museum exhibit, but now they are slowly deteriorating. Weather, rust, and mold have damaged them, though each president remains recognizable. Outdoor statues can deteriorate quickly when left exposed for years. One man still hopes to restore them someday. Until then, they remain standing in silence. Would you save them or leave them as forgotten history? That's it for tonight. Which moment creep? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story, share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.